In this program we look at the range of the values that we can use for countable numbers. So these are all the integer type numbers. We have regular integers, and you see that they can be both negative and positive. Now the total range is about 4 billion with a B. So if you have negative numbers and positive numbers, then it goes from minus 2 billion to plus 2 billion. Later on basic computer architecture we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about these ranges, but for purposes of C++ it's enough to have an idea of how large these numbers roughly are. Okay, so you see that they occupy different amounts of bytes of memory, and see 1 byte of memory as one little memory box. So this one contains 4 boxes, this one uses 4 boxes, this one uses 4 boxes, this one 2 boxes, over here this uses 8 boxes. And you can also see that when you have this long integer over here and you compare that over here with a regular integer, you go from 4 bytes to 8 bytes, from minus 2 billion to plus 2 billion, to over here, and I forget exactly how much this is. This is basically a billion times a billion, I think. Anyway, minus 9 billion to plus 2 billion. So you see that a long integer can hold much larger values, but it also takes up a little bit more memory. Okay, now also look at the difference over here between integers and signed integers, unsigned integers. If you use that range of 4 billion to a signed integer, a regular integer, it goes from minus 2 billion to plus 2 billion. Over here, for the unsigned one that can only be positive, it goes from 0 to plus 4 billion. Same thing for the long integer. Over here, long integer minus 9 billion to plus 9 billion. And if you do the unsigned, that goes from 0 to 8 billion. Now, we don't always need very large numbers, so you can also use smaller numbers. Let's see over here, the short integer goes from minus 32,000 to plus 32,000, and if you do it signed, oh no, that's a signed integer, and the unsigned short integer goes from 0 to 65,000. You also see that the long integer uses the same amount of space as the long integer, so we don't have to worry about that difference. Most of what we use in C++ is over here just the regular integers, or we use a long integer over here, and you see that in this program too. Now, why is it important to know these ranges? Over here we have a regular integer that can be positive and negative, and we use that with a negative number. Over here we use an unsigned integer, and that means it can only be positive. We use a positive number over here. And then over here we use a long, which can go only up to 9 billion over here, and you see that we use a positive number over here that falls well within this range. So here we go, and let's run this and see if we can get the expected output. Okay, a journey of 4276 miles, that's correct. Checking account balance minus $20. That's correct over here. And the diameter is about 100,000, and that's correct too. Let's change these values a little bit and see how we can use this outside the normal range. So an integer for checking goes from minus 2 billion to plus 2 billion. And if I make this 3, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, this is minus 3 billion. And actually artificial intelligence is already giving a message over this will cause an overflow for the integer type. So if we run this, you see that these numbers don't match. And why doesn't it match? Well, over here we have about minus 3 billion, so it's to the left over here of this range, which means that it goes back to this side over here, and we end up with a positive number over here. And that's where it has to give an answer, and it just goes back to within the normal range. If I change this number over here, 4276 miles, and miles is an unsigned integer, can only be positive. I'm going to make this minus 4276, so I use an inappropriate number. And I run this again. And you see that all of a sudden we have 4 billion and some miles. And that's because we're over here in this range of 0 to 4 billion. So we're in a negative number over here, it loops back, and then it's a little bit less than the maximum over here. So that is a wrong number too. And the diameter over here is a little bit more challenging because a long is such a large number already. So you see that over here we have a maximum of 9 billion. So I'm just going to do 10 billion. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that's 1 billion. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and it already tells us this will cause an overflow error. So instead of this diameter over here, we get a totally different number. All of a sudden we have a negative number over here. So the distance, of course, cannot be negative, so that doesn't make any sense either. Okay, so this just tells you something about the importance of staying within the range and knowing what those ranges are.